Hey friends, in today's video, I'm going to talk about the Smite of Moraine pulse rifle from the King's Fall raid. I had mine craftable for a while, I've had this roll on it for a while, and I've slowly been tweaking it to maybe get it to a form that I enjoy using, but I'm disappointed to report that no matter what I changed, I still did not like it. In the past on my channel, a video like this may never see the light of day. All these clips sit in a folder gathering dust, and because I didn't find the weapon to be powerful or fun or something else, I just don't post the video because something else takes priority. Something that is really good and really fun. But a lot of you have mentioned in the comment section that you do like seeing videos where I review something that I don't like in Destiny. So here we are. Why don't I like this pulse rifle? Cue the clip. I think that's a perfect example of the limitations of this archetype. Thank you, Past Cammy, for that observation. I think that's a great example of the limitations of this archetype, aka it cannot 2-burst. You have to have some sort of damage bonus to help it 2-burst. So in other words, the only way you're going to get any juice out of this archetype is if you build into Radiant. I'm a Gemini Jester player, so that's not really an option to go Acrobat Dodge and have a 40-second Gemini Jester proc. Manipulating the radar is way more important than a 2-burst to me, so I have to do that in another way, and that is what I built this gun to do. I built it to be Gunslinger's best friend. It has Swashbuckler for my throwing knives. If my throwing knife kills, it activates Swashbuckler. If it just tags them, it activates Radiant. So either way, getting a tag means that I cleanly 2-burst. The other perk is Focused Fury. If I land half of the magazine as headshots, I get a damage bonus. 20% damage bonus. I think I said Frenzy was 20% the other day, but I think it's 15. Focus Fury is 20%. To activate it, you have to land half the magazine as precision hits, which is a really tall order for most of the player base and outright impossible for some. Crucible is not played in a vacuum. Sometimes you have to shoot a barricade, sometimes a lightning nade off the wall, sometimes a child of the old gods. Sometimes you miss a shot due to flinch or screen shake. So, to assist with proccing Focus Fury, the origin trait runneth over. If you're near teammates and reload, it overflows the magazine, and this helps proc Focus Fury because you have more bullets to miss. If the magazine is 50 or something like that, you don't necessarily have to hit half of that, you have to hit half of the initial magazine. So this would make one think that the best place for this pulse rifle roll is in 6s, right? At the start of the round, you have runneth over ×5, shoot a burst, reload, get your overflowed magazine, and then go crazy with Focus Fury. But as you see from the background gameplay, I will proc Focus Fury a lot, and it never comes up at an opportunity that I can take advantage of it. It always is, it's either the last enemy alive that I proc it on, or they run away for the entire duration of Focus Fury. I'm essentially turning this pulse rifle into No Time to Explain at home, and the entire loadout pairing has to do something that No Time cannot. For example, this could be like just equipping the exotic shotgun duality, so you could have both a pellet mode and a slug mode for more options. But I think downgrading your primary is not worth the special weapon upgrade. I don't really know if there is a justification for the overall loadout with this. I could think maybe a linear fusion with Rain of Fire, since that if you dodge with the Rain of Fire Warlock exotic boots, it'll reload the weapon, but it won't break the Focus Fury perk. So you could use Heat Rises and Radiant Melee to slowly build the pulse rifle up to a competitive state. But that's just way too much work when at the end of the day, you can just use an aggressive pulse. It doesn't have to be No Time. You could use the Messenger. You could use the Legal Action 2 with 22 zoom. This pulse rifle just doesn't have the base lethality. It makes you have to work just to be competitive with No Time to Explain and friends. The bottom line is that if you put the same effort towards boosting No Time to Explain as you would boosting this weapon, you're gonna have a better time with No Time to Explain. Now, obviously adaptives are a very forgiving archetype where the crit to body shot ratio is very, very forgiving. But unfortunately, I don't think that's enough of a trade-off for missing out on lethality. The high impact pulse, like No Time to Explain or any of the other legendaries, it really doesn't even matter if you hit body shots, because if you didn't hit the 2-burst, you were already leaving. And if you do, it's just a bonus. And then we have other weapons in the mix, like SMGs and sidearms. No Time to Explain has a chance to beat them if you hit your 2-burst, whereas this, it doesn't matter how well you shoot, you are going to lose. That right there is the reason that I don't think I can ever use an adaptive pulse, even when I make a loadout built around boosting it. It's just simply not worth the effort. And the crazy part is, even if I body shot with the high impact, I still trade with adaptives all the time. It really doesn't matter if you hit your crits or not, just use the better lethal archetype from the beginning. So this begs the question, what does an adaptive pulse have to have for me to choose it over a high impact pulse? There is an answer, and that answer is Skulking Wolf origin trait from Iron Banner. Yes, the Iron Banner adaptive pulse, called Forge's Pledge, has that origin trait, and it can roll both Surplus and Rampage, a perk that ups its consistency, and another perk that turns it into a 2-burst. That is the perfect adaptive pulse rifle, and nothing else compares. I said it at the very beginning of the video. If I have to choose between lethality and radar manipulation, I'm choosing radar manipulation. But if in the future, Iron Banner brings back some of the more lethal archetypes or a high impact pulse, guess what I'm deleting? Yeah, that's right, I'm never going to use an adaptive again. Well, that's not entirely true. Just like with the lightweight pulses, the Syncopation 53 has enhanced hipfire grip despite being an adaptive, and that alone makes me value it over all of these lethality perks, except it also has a lethality perk. So if the question I posed is, what does an adaptive pulse have to have for me to use it over a high impact? The answer is it either needs to be radar manipulation or perfect hipfire. I still prefer the BXR Battler to both of these options, by the way, despite it being an inferior choice, just because it is a Halo weapon, and I am still so salty that they changed the zoom from 20 to 18. I know it's copium, but I still hope that they change it back. Maybe they can reduce some headshot or body shot damage, maybe both, to allow a gun that has perfect hipfire and high zoom to exist. But I would still argue that they don't even need to do that, because if you show up with the Battler against No Time or SMGs, it's borderline throwing with how much you have to work and how much you're on the back foot already. Of course, high impact pulses overall could take some sort of damage or RPM change to make them a little more fair in the sandbox, but then, what would keep sidearms and SMGs at bay? I'll continue that discussion another day. I want to pivot this conversation to talk about the exotic adaptive collective obligation. We learned about all the void verbs yesterday. It's a gun that can leech any of the void verbs and then apply them. So if you get weakened, it turns into a consistent 2-burst. And that gets really easy when everyone on your team uses void verbs. That's definitely another option that I think is strong enough to warrant using an adaptive. Now, I did have a Lumina user help me out in part of this play session, not in this gameplay, but I did notice it helped proc Focus Fury so much more because I was never wasting the 3rd burst on a kill. Think about it. 2 bursts gets him down to 1 HP remaining, and I still have to shoot another burst. So if the first bullet is a headshot, I've just wasted 2 bullets of my Focus Fury. Yes, it does have runneth over, but the problem is still there. I can't always proc it. Sometimes I spawn in by myself. The final weapon comparison to make is not even another pulse rifle. It's the Lodbrok high impact auto rifle, which has a similar range drop off as this pulse, yet a faster optimal TTK, especially with the target lock perk. It may be an apples to oranges comparison, but consider this a long list of weapons I would rather use over the Smite when it comes to playing to win. I don't think the Smite is worth crafting. I really don't. I initially started it off with high stability, but ran into an issue where if a hand cannon shot me, it flinched me off an entire burst. So what's the point of having the gun be forgiving if I can't hit my target in the first place? So then I started speccing out for more range so that when I was damage boosted, I could still maintain a pretty far 2-burst kill. I think that pretty much sums up my problems with the adaptive pulses overall and how I have to build them to make up for their shortcomings. It's not really worth it. That's what I want to get across. I want to keep this under 10 minutes, so I'm going to do the outro here. Thanks for watching the video. I will try to continue being consistent. Thanks, everybody.